Meh. He's down.
It was funny the other day, it's been probably 2 weeks now or more. I got up and hopped in the truck to go to work, and Victory Drive podcast popped up, and Darron DeBoer was the guest on there with Jacob, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And it was funny because you and I had just recorded the shooting podcast that we did, and but you'd done the one with Jacob.
Yeah.
Back in January,
Yeah.
and I didn't know that you'd done that. I think I knew you'd been in contact with him, so that was really cool. I really enjoyed listening to that one.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I reached out and kind of been touching base when I first heard that, WCB had branched out and was going to do a firearms thing. I reached out to him and said, "Hey, that's awesome," and then kind of through some just follow-ups, whatever, said, "Hey, if you ever want to talk about whatever, just let me know." And I don't have a whole lot of firearm hunting stories, or at least anything within the past 20 years, but I can weigh in on the competition side of things. So actually, I think we recorded that podcast, I don't remember which number it was, 11 or 12 or something, before the show even launched. So he had quite a few of them ready to go, and then so it was a couple of months later before that one actually came out. But yeah, that was fun talking to him and Landon, and it was good time. So neat show.
Landon's also
Yep. So Landon's from Iowa. I don't know him in person, met him on the podcast. Kind of know of him, but shoots PRS in Iowa and kind of surrounding states. So neat folks, and it's kind of fun to chat a little bit.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. You'll have to, if anybody listens to this and they don't listen to that yet, go listen, because that was fun.
That was neat.
So turkeys.
Yep.
So we're at the end of April now, and we were out this morning and didn't seem to catch up on any, but you made pretty quick work of it Wednesday afternoon. You came up a couple days ago, and you kind of got a trend going. It seems like the last couple of years you turn it around pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, so let's see, it was the day before yesterday. I came up, got here early afternoon, and so after a lot of years of not having any luck, we've kind of started trying to figure them out a little bit. And part of it is we are really familiar with our farm and kind of what they're doing this time of year. And so there's some getting the timing kind of nailed down. So seems like it's worked out. We've, I guess, shot them in Kansas. You can go, it's kind of early April all the way through the end of May. So the season's really long. And I've shot them, I don't know, not probably every week of that season, but heck, I've shot one the very Memorial Day weekend, the very last day of season, some years ago, and shot some pretty early. But it seems like this, last week of April, is pretty hot on the farm. Probably a combination of things, but one of them being that the vegetation's super low, and so the toms are hitting the open spaces and they're pretty visible. The foliage it's starting to get a little green out, but you can still see through the trees quite a bit. So if you can find one that's gobbling, there's a pretty good chance you'll be able to figure out where he's at, and then either get set up on him or do a sneak on him. And so we've had, we've kind of mixed 50-50, whether we put a sneak on one and get it down, or we get set up where they're roosting and get them down that way. And so it's usually one or the other.
Yeah. And you listen to other, here lately, I guess, just to kill time and whatnot. I've listened to a lot of the podcasts talking about turkey hunting, and we've watched videos in the past, and so we kind of know how other people attack it. And I guess we can kind of fast forward through some of those steps, because we really don't have to spend a lot of time locating any of the birds, because we've known this farm forever. And it's not that we always get set up on them right away, but we pretty much know where they're going to roost. And even if they're off our property, we kind of know where they're going to be. So that kind of eliminates kind of that first step of having to locate them and really work them. I think I've shot more from sets that you've set up, just flying down from the roost, than stalking up on them. But you've had a lot of luck. I don't know if it's luck really, because you've been pretty consistent with sneaking up on them. And if anybody's heard us talk about other hunts, deer hunting and stuff, they kind of understand how our property is. It's a mix of fields and dense cedar trees, young cedar trees, some older open timber. So it's a really cool farm for turkey hunting, and that probably plays into your advantage. Now, I missed out on these last couple of years where you snuck up on them, but I think that played into it, kind of these little rock benches with cedar growth, and you can kind of locate them and sneak up on them.
Well, there's a couple of things there. One is that when it comes to turkey hunting, I'm incredibly impatient. I think so. This morning we sat out, I don't know, 2.5 hours or something on the decoys, hoping they would work their way in, and that's might be the longest I've ever set on decoys. I just can't if they're not gobbling and doing something, I lose interest pretty quick, and I want to go find them. And
while we're there, let's talk about that setup, because you located these birds yesterday morning.
Yep. So let's see, day before yesterday I got mine, and then so yesterday I just kind of spent the entire day just wandering around. I got up early, set up knew where some would roost. A couple of jakes flew down, but they were gobbling really good yesterday. Only had the couple of jakes come by actually I didn't even have the decoys set out yesterday, so I just called them in kind of close. And so after they moved off, I said, well, I'll go check out some of these other little fields, and kind of snuck around down in the valleys and stuff and looked around. And when I was up on one, I heard a bunch of pretty strong gobbling off the other direction. And I said, well, I'd better go see what that is. So popped down in the trees and the creeks and found them out in the middle of a big CRP field that we burned 2 or 3 weeks ago, something like that. And so the grass is real low, and classic, just the toms are out there doing their thing. And so at first, when I first found them, I don't know, they were maybe 100 yards out in the middle of there, and they eventually kind of worked around the corner. I thought, well, all right, I'm gonna see how close I can get. So I popped down in the creek and got behind this creek terrace and snuck up real close. And at this point, they were still, I got closer, but they also had moved off, so they were still 100 yards away or so. But I popped my head out, kind of above the bank, and set the camera up there, and yelped at them a few times and got their interest. And they came in pretty darn close. Had 3 of them that 5 yards or less, and they never spooked, never really knew I was there. I don't think I didn't have a decoy or anything out, so they probably a little suspicious of the sound. But once they got in close, I didn't really mess with them, other than I got them to gobble a couple of times, and just wanted to get some videos and get that interaction. So that was real fun, and they hung around there for a couple hours. So then, back to this morning, like, well, a good chance they're going to be back in there, because they were there for a long time yesterday. And
right.
So made a little hidey hole there where we could get set up. One of the problems with burning that off is it just torched all the underbrush and all the little cedar trees and stuff that were on the edge. So there wasn't a good place to set up a blind. So I hauled a whole truckload of branches that I cut down there and made a little blind. And we got down early this morning and got the decoys out and tried to see what was going on, but nothing really cooperated.
Yeah, and it was interesting this morning. Normally you can hear a half dozen locations where they're gobbling from the roost. They didn't really do that this morning. We heard some off the property to the east or northeast, probably.
Yeah.
And ordinarily, I don't think we would have been that patient to sit around, but it was after 8 o'clock, I think, yesterday when you were sending me pictures.
Yeah.
And so that kind of made us want to hang tight, since we didn't hear anything really responding to calls or really sounding off. We just thought, well, we'll hang out there. But
yeah,
okay.
Well, and this spot where the decoys were, if the turkeys had come on our side of the road, they would have seen the decoys from 400 yards away.
Yeah.
So there was a good chance if they would have came our direction a little bit, we could have got them in there. But I don't know what they were doing this morning. The weather's a little weird, and there weren't a lot of bird noises this morning besides the quail and the doves and everything else. So.
Yep, found a few hens and a couple jakes. But okay, so back to Wednesday. How did that all play out?
Yeah, so Wednesday I got up. I had some work stuff I needed to deal with halfway here to the farm. So I said, well, after that, I'd just come up and see what was going on. And so got up here real early afternoon, and there's one field that had just been planted to oats, the knob up there, and been getting pretty regular over the past week or so. Pictures in the evening, actually real late, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, of a bunch of hens and a couple of toms hitting the corner of this field. And so I thought, well, I don't know what they're doing in the afternoon, but good chance they'll come by here in the evening. So I got all my camo on, and I said, well, I'll get all my junk hauled over and try to make a little blind in this corner of the field. And so I did that, got everything over there dumped off and made a little hidey hole. And it was maybe 1:30 or 1:40, quarter till 2, something like that. And well, probably nothing's going to show up here for a couple hours. But well, I'll go wander around, see what else I can find. Maybe 5 o'clock or so, I'll come back and set out the last 3 hours of the day or so here. And while I was doing that, and I just wandered off, I don't know, 50 yards. So I heard some gobbling across the valley, back on the south side, up on the pasture hill. And I thought, well, shoot, I can't just let them do that. So I figured I better go see what's going on over there. So left everything except for took my camera and the gun and dropped down across the valley. And there's a couple of spots there. Once you get down into the creek banks are really high and really wooded kind of through the creek there. And so once you get off the top of the hill down into the creek, you can move quite a ways. So that's what I did, got in the creek. There's a little finger of trees that comes down joining the creek, hopped out of there and followed that up the side of the hill. And our part of the country here in Kansas, we have a lot of limestone hills, and so the kind of the flat tops of the hill, that's a limestone bench. And then where we are, there's that limestone top, and then there's maybe a 10-foot thick shale layer under that, and then another limestone bench. So what happens is all these hills, you've got the top and then a little slope and then another bench and then slopes down to the valley. So a lot of times kind of along the edge of that cap rock, that's where there's some moisture, and so trees kind of ring that. And so if you can get up on that first little bench, you can get behind the trees, move around quite a bit, and then pop your head up every once in a while and see what's on top. And so I just, pure luck, did that. And the first place I popped out, I saw some jakes, I don't know, 60, 70 yards, but they were heading right for me. And so, this is kind of interesting, and found a little spot tucked in the cedar trees there, and just enough I could set the camera off to the side and see through a hole in them. Sun was a little bit toward my back, that direction, but mostly overhead. So it's good sun direction. And then real quick, there was some more gobbling and two mature toms with the jakes too. And again, pure luck, they were circling on the top of the hill and coming right my direction. Once they got in a little bit closer, I gave them just a couple of yelps so that they wouldn't veer off the other way, but they were still pretty curious what was going on, and they weren't strutting or putting on a show or whatever. They were just wandering around looking for stuff. So yeah, popped up on them real close, and didn't take but, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, and they were in real close. And the two toms nearly got away from me because they started heading off over the crest of the hill, and they could have escaped me pretty quick. But yelped him back a little bit, and got one of them knocked down pretty quick. So yeah, it took all of, I don't know, 90 minutes or something from leaving the truck to having a bird on the ground. And that's sometimes the way it works out. It's kind of one of those situations like, well, it wasn't a whole lot to the story other than just finding them and going and getting one. And so didn't get a whole lot of video of them or anything, but it was fun to be able to locate them and go to them and find one and get it down. And so that's a lot of times kind of how it happens for me anyhow. Later in the morning or early afternoons, wait till they're off kind of separate and doing their patrols and locate one and just go get them.
Yeah, you say time and time again it was a little bit of luck, and certainly it is, but you did the same thing last year, just on the other side of that formation. And I remember in high school, we were not good turkey hunters back then at all, but we were trying to do the similar thing and locating a lot of birds in the same manner. We just weren't closing the deal on it. So yeah, luck, you have to, sometimes they go away from you, like you mentioned there, and there have been those instances, but you've been pretty successful in using that strategy in the past, and that location too. We kind of know the lay of the land, and using that to your advantage for sure.
Yeah, and we're pretty lucky there because the terrain, and there is enough cover that if you can locate a bird and you're fairly sure he's not really booking it one way or the other, if they're kind of hanging out, you can do a lot of sneaking around if you're pretty careful. The luck thing comes in because I have had times where where I've heard some gobble. Okay, I think I know where they're at. They're still a few hundred yards away, so I sneak in, try to get close, and I pop my head up, and they're like looking right at me from 5 yards away.
It's almost worse if you're too close.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the worst, because if they're because if you pop up, I mean, even using the cover, if they're that close, they're gonna see you, and then they're out of there. If they're 100 yards away or so, you can then readjust, and now you know where they're at, and you can work yourself in even closer. The wild card in all of this, and what's got me busted more times than anything, is there'll be a tom and then a whole bunch of hens with him, and you have no idea where all the hens are, and they're usually the ones that pick you off. He's
too many eyes.
Too many eyes on you. He's usually watching the hens, so he's not too much of a concern, but the hens blend in, and you don't know where they're all at, so you bust one of them and then everybody's gone.
I want you to talk about the gun you use. You've used that. I used it. You let me borrow it last year. But for 2 seasons now.
Yep, so past 2 seasons we've been running this little CVA Scout 410. It's, I don't know, short little single shot break open 410 with this super tight, I think it's a Jeb's choke on it, with number 9 TSS shot in a 3-inch shell.
So explain the TSS.
Yep, TSS tungsten super shot. So most shotgun shells are loaded with lead, or if you're hunting waterfowl, steel, and then for a lot of years the turkey loads have been copper or something, and usually pretty big shot, size 4 or 5 shot is pretty common for turkey loads. But with tungsten, I can't remember exactly, but it's something like 6. I'm pulling this number out of the top of my head. It's a lot denser than lead. So I can't remember if it's 60% or 80% more dense than lead. So what basically means is that you can have a lot more pellets, a lot smaller pellets, and still have the same payload of shot in a shell. So I don't remember how many number 9 pellets are in a 410 shell of TSS, but it's enough that it will put 40, 50 pellets in a turkey head target at 40 yards. It will just thump them. So the cool thing about 410, I mean, you only get the one shot in this, but it's quiet. There's hardly any recoil. The rifle weighs next to nothing. I don't know, it's 5 pounds total or something with a red dot on it and the camera on it. So it's super easy, super small to carry around all day. And I think, so the last 3 birds we've shot have all been with this Scout. I can't remember last year how far mine was. Yours was 25, 30 yards, something like that. This one, I actually didn't range him because I thought he was getting out of there too quick. So I probably should have, but 46 yards is how far he was, and just dumped them right on his face. And so it's, I don't know that I'll ever hunt turkeys with anything else besides this. Still have the 12 gauge and I'll probably keep it, but it's not a lot of fun to shoot, and it's heavy to carry around and whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the main point. If you get in a situation where you have to move,
yeah,
it's kind of a job lugging a bigger gun around. And
yeah. Well, and so the other shotgun I have, a Mossberg, it's 835 Ulti-Mag, and little short barrel. I think it's a 20-inch barrel. It's overboard and a super tight constriction, and then a super full choke, because I wanted a short gun, because I realized early on, like, I do a lot of this sneaking around and walking all day with a shotgun, and the 26-inch barrel full-size shotgun is just a pain in the rear end to do that all day long with. So I got this smaller gun, and it works all right, but shooting 3.5-inch shells out of this shorter shotgun, it hurts, and it's loud, and
the shells are heavier,
heavy.
And just all, yeah.
Yep, still pretty heavy. So it's, the 410 is awesome. The trade-off is that, TSS is still not super popular, and it's pretty expensive to shoot. So make sure, if you're going to do that, grab some shells in the fall or winter. Don't wait until opening weekend, because you're not going to be able to find any anywhere. So get yourself a couple boxes.
The other nice thing about that gun is it's one gun and everybody can use it.
Yeah.
Young people, women, we can use it. So
yeah,
that's another advantage to if you just need to pick up one gun, then the whole group's covered.
Yeah. So that's a huge thing of it. And then I have a couple of boxes of just regular 410 shells, and because it's 410 and it's not as popular, it's more expensive than your 20 gauge or 12 gauge, just birdshot loads or whatever. But you can still buy a box of 25 lead, regular 410 shells pretty cheap. Kids can shoot them, get comfortable with it. You don't have to have them shooting the turkey loads at paper. You can shoot the regular lead shot to get it, sighted in, and save a lot of money there. And then, yeah, absolutely, it's not as loud, doesn't kick hardly at all. So it's pretty comfortable little gun, and they're pretty darn affordable. They're not an expensive weapon at all. So
yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, turkeys in general are probably one of the more enjoyable outdoor experiences. I remember just even before hunting, just as a young kid, when we were running around in the pasture, you'd find a flock of turkeys up in these little draws, and you could get pretty close because they're somewhat curious, and because they flock in nature, and this is probably more later in the season when they get back together after they've hatched and that sort of thing, but you can get pretty close to them and get right in amongst them, and it's really fun. And the same thing with hunting them in the mornings when they're gobbling off the roost and flying down. It's so fun. So that's been one of the things I really enjoy. It feels like, for me, a lot less pressure than deer hunting, because there's not necessarily like the trophy aspect of it.
Yep.
And if you feel like you've bumped them, you just kind of have to readjust. They don't just blow off the property.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the more fun parts for me for spring turkey hunting anyway.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this yesterday when I was just, wandering around in the hills trying to get pictures and videos and listen to them gobble and stuff. It's like, I love the deer hunting, but it's a whole different level of intensity and focus for me with the deer, partly because a lot of times we're after, a specific deer or a specific age, maturity of deer, right? So we have to be a little careful that we're not pressuring, we're not bumping, whatever. And then there's not a whole lot, the way we hunt, not a whole lot you can do besides just be in the right place at the right time to get that buck, right? So you have to be pretty focused. It's kind of intense. A lot of time put into it, a lot of being careful about your movement and your noise and your smell and all that. So just a lot of things you have to think about. To me, turkeys is kind of a lot different. It's interactive. We can go in, even if you're a little late or whatever, you can still find them and get on them. Like I said, if you bump one, it's not like they're gone forever. You're never going to see that turkey again. He'll probably just go to the next hill over, and you wait an hour and you wait till he settles down. You can get back on him again. You can get him gobbling, they interact with you. And then, heck, if, you need a break from them or nothing's happening, you just go wander around the woods for a little bit and pick up rocks, look for mushrooms, and just enjoy the beautiful day. It's not like you just, like tree stand hunting, 99% of my time I'm just sitting there staring at the same branch or the same squirrel and kind of stuck in my own thoughts. But the turkeys, you can get out and do a lot of stuff. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, not easy by any means, but it's so much fun. It's a really enjoyable thing to do in the springtime.
Yeah, and the thing, the turkeys are smart, right? And they can see really well and they can hear really well, and you don't have to worry about their noses, but they don't have a whole lot else going on for them, and so they have to be pretty sharp. And so anything that's a little bit suspicious to them, they're out of there.
And they have to adhere to daytime hours. Yeah. Which aligns with our schedule too. A deer, they have to feed too, but they can do it all night long. Now a turkey, they have to go get their bugs and stuff while it's daylight because they got to roost at night. So they're kind of forced into these patterns and habits that we can take advantage of. And so, they can't just go hide in a tree all day long and hide from you. They have to go eat, and that gives you a little bit of a advantage, or at least more daylight hours to chase them.
Yep. So that's true. The other thing is that it really helps to kind of know what food source. It's hard to pattern turkeys. And you think about maybe earlier season, deer hunting or whatever, when they're still hitting the food pretty regularly. Rut comes, everything goes crazy. Late season again, they're back on the food, and so sometimes you can pattern specific deer. And my experience, the turkeys, they generally roost kind of the same area, but they just kind of do whatever pops in their tiny little head a lot of the time. So it's hard to know, when they fly down, what direction are they going to go? I don't know. Yeah. So there's a little bit of that, and then also getting the timing right. Like right now we can see them, give them a couple more weeks. Grass is going to get tall. The trees are going to get all bushy here, and on our farm that makes it really hard for them to get on them because you can't see them. If you can hear them, you kind of have no idea where they're at, but it gets so thick that then getting on them is really difficult. So
if you've ever watched a chicken chase a grasshopper, that's about as well as you can pattern a turkey. It seems like they have their general routes, but and you can get pretty close, and that's a good strategy. That's what we've used in the past. We get pretty close to a lot of turkeys. Yeah. Just getting in between where they roost and where they're headed to, 8 to 10 o'clock in the morning. But that's definitely not like a deer trail or sitting on a scrape or something like that. So
no, and it's fun because it satisfies that itch in me to go after something. Something we can't spot and stalk deer here at all, right? We have to just sit and wait and be hidden from them. The turkeys, that satisfies my need to just get up and go do something. So I do like chasing after them that way. The other thing that's kind of funny, and I was just thinking about this yesterday, while I was trying to take video of these two stupid jakes wandering around, is that there was a deer that popped out of the trees, and it's like, oh shoot, there's a deer, get out of here. They're gonna spook the jakes off. And then every fall I'm like, gosh, shoot, there's all those turkeys making all this racket. And so it's funny, flip-flop the seasons and what you wanting the animals to do, but the deer live there year round, and they're putting on the antlers now, and so whatever I may be crashing into right now, maybe something we're chasing this fall. So
Yeah.
be interesting.
Yeah. It's a good time. So, well, we'll see if we want to go back this afternoon or tomorrow morning. We got another month at least.
Yeah.
Chasing if we want to. So
we got the time. That's kind of the other thing, like with the turkeys. I don't know if it's the weather or their cycle's not real consistent or whatever, but with hunting a deer, we know pretty regularly when the hot deer activity is going to be, right? Like last week of October, first week of November here in our part of Kansas, like the bucks are going. That's when we need to be out there. Turkeys, man, we've had some years where like it seems like all their gobbling and their chasing is done second week of April, and you can't get a gobble out of them for nothing. Sometimes like you go clear into May and they're coming to the calls and the decoys, and it seems really, really strange year to year. And I think maybe weather plays a little bit into that, but
yeah. Well, that probably pretty well explains what we need to work on as far as the turkey psychology and that sort of thing. We've got some of the terrain and some of that stuff figured out, but there's a lot to learn yet. So
yeah. Well, and the other thing that's really encouraging. So last year we had a fair number of birds. This year I've seen at least 5 mature toms for sure, and a couple of jakes, which is cool because last year we saw a whole bunch of jakes and just a couple of mature toms. So obviously some of them survived. I think it was the year before that, we had nothing.
Right.
I think we maybe saw 1 tom and just had a couple of gobbles. I mean, we didn't hit it too hard, but it is evident the numbers were way, way low 3 years ago. We just didn't see much at all. So that's pretty cool. We're getting lots of pictures of them. I mean, it's not uncommon. Well, it's early April when they're still bunched up, but we had pictures with 3 mature toms and a dozen hens in them. And we hadn't seen that in quite a few years. So that's good. We're starting to see that bounce back a little bit.
Yeah, that's really encouraging. So, well, thanks. I just wanted to pick your brain on that and hear your stories. And
yeah. Hopefully it's not that cold, but it feels cold right at the moment. We've got a little rain front moving through here, so we kind of chased us out of the pasture. So hopefully that moves through, and then in an hour or so we get back out there. I've hunted. We've actually shot some birds in the rain before, but that was nice warm rain. I've been out. I don't like sitting in the cold rain, and I'm not feeling like getting drenched. But you remember that one? I don't even remember what year that was. That you shot that gobbler that about attacked you in the middle of the rainstorm.
Yeah, it came in right behind us.
Yeah,
that was a fun one. So the rain that time, it just had them all bunched together tight, and the majority of them were across the field. This was our attempt to pattern. So a lot of times they were on the north side of this CRP pasture. Well, so that's where we set up, and that day they picked the south fence line to be on, and so they were just kind of all huddled up there. And yeah, I think we were getting a little impatient maybe, but there was one bird came crashing down from his roost late behind us and landed right on the right side of me on the creek bank. And I had just enough time to swing over and pop him. I was using Dad's 12-gauge shotgun that day. But that was a thunderstormy day.
So I think it was, I'm going to get this wrong, but it was on one of the Victory Drive podcasts, Jacob, and I think it was Moon. Maybe we're talking about turkey hunting, and I think Jacob said it. Maybe his first turkey or something he shot in the rain or fell in the big rain puddle or whatever. Like, I love turkey pictures, getting them all posed out and fanned out. Like, so cool. You shoot a wet turkey, it's like the most disgusting thing. It might as well be a possum with as nasty as they look. So that's always disappointing. You shoot one that's all drenched and then they flop around in the mud. Like, gross. But that one was, I remember that because we did set out in the rain there, but I don't remember exactly what day it was, but it was a warm rain. So
that had to be late.
I think May. It was later. So we were wet, but it wasn't, 50 degrees cold rain. Not a big fan of that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I imagine whatever pressure and whatever this weather system's doing today is part of the reason we weren't hearing them gobble a lot this morning. And if they were, obviously we don't have that figured out, but if they were gobbling and moving around and stuff, we'd probably still be out there looking. But such that it is, we might as well wait and see if it warms up and get some sunshine this afternoon, because wherever the sun shines, they'll probably be out there strutting. So we'll see what happens.
Should be able to go find something.
Cool.
See how it goes.
Well, that's that. Well, I don't know if this will pick up very good because it's just with the phone and no mics, but to update the turkey podcast, we went back out after we talked about Darron's turkey.
My turkey proximity alarm's going off here.
Yeah. And Darron found, I don't know, 3 hens and a couple jakes and a tom
like that
to the east of the barn. And we got down in the creek and snuck all around through the creek. Got close to him once, but the tom wasn't really cooperating. He kind of lost himself in the creek, and then we lost him. And they all started moving south away from us, so we ducked back in the creek and took out after him. And they split up, apparently, because the tom ended up to our east and the others went west. And we did locate him, and I did get a shot, but I missed.
Well, thank you. Got that shrub pretty good.
Yeah.
Scared him.
I think he kind of saw us, and he was heading the other direction by the time I decided to shoot, and I just got in a hurry and decided to take a shot, which...
Yeah, he kind of got behind us, and I don't know, I thought they all went that way, but then we heard noise the other way, and so we switched our focus, and, well, he was behind us, so
in that field he ended up in, it was tilled up, so it was just bare ground, and there was kind of a swale out in the middle of it, and I wonder if he didn't get in that and kind of duck down in there. Because he was kind of coming from that direction when I noticed him, and I think he was trying to get back over to his hens, but
kind of got smacked in the middle of them.
Anyway, that's
surprised each other.
Yeah, so we're gonna cruise back over to get Darron's decoys, and if we see something, we might chase it. But that's the update.
And it's raining again.
It's raining again, so. But all in all, still a fun day because we got to try sneaking up on something, and we saw him. So.
Yep.
All right, that's it.